Welcome back to WeakT Gaming. What's up, YouTube? Today's video is taken from our Torment Tides of Numenera live streams. If you're not familiar, Torment is an isometric RPG that includes a lot of reading, so please sit back, enjoy story time, and give us a like or a comment on the video at the end. You have a name. This slim man looks to be in good shape, and though his face remains hidden within his hood, he carries himself with confidence. His clothing exudes something like smoke that makes him look a bit like a ghost, perhaps a man who can't be found if he doesn't want to be. Brittney, he states pleasure. I'm a merc, head of the Ianthine Spectre Company. What brings you to the thicket? He sees something in your expression. First timer, huh? Well, whatever we talk about here can't be overheard. Someone tries to read our lips, they get gibberish. He crosses his arms. Good place to talk business, in other words, if that's what you're here for. Yeah, tell me about the Spectres. We do infiltration, mostly, he says with a smoothness that implies he's given this speech before. Sabotage, assassinations, a sort of hostile recovery. Sometimes the city hires us to handle local threats, problematic tribes, roaming predators, you name it. He chuckles. Pretty quiet these days, not like when we got started. Our first big job was a series of assaults in the Endless Battle. He looks familiar, that tattoo especially. Can't think why I'd know him, though. What's the Endless Battle? Really? He says, cocking an eyebrow. All right, it's basically like it sounds. A fight that's given people like me a solid payday for more generations than anyone could count. He shrugs. As far as I heard, it's a scrap between rival factions over the changing gods' cast-offs. What about? I couldn't tell you. He cracks a grin. Getting interested in the why of a war always ends up being bad for business. What did you do in the Endless Battle? Can't say, he says automatically. Contracts, you understand? All I can tell you is the Chalcedon pays on time. And that's more than I can say for some of the employers I've had over the years, he sighs. One of the best jobs we've ever had. Who's the Chalcedon? One of the commanders of the Changing Gods side, he says. Pays well and on time, and that's the extent of my opinion on the matter. Now my turn for questions. It's not just the tattoo that gives you away. I know you, don't I? Where from? We fight together? Fight each other? What is it? His hand drops to a pocket near his hip. Tell the truth now, or I'll know if you're lying. His thoughts don't tell me anything. I'll have to try the direct approach. Let me try to remember you. I have done so.
I'm ready to learn something new.
You focus on the man, his features, and open your mind. Can we trust them? You hear yourself say, your voice muted by the years. They're mercenaries, your companion replies. Of course we can't. That's not what I meant, you snap. Can we trust them to finish the work? If not, kill them now. This is no time for uncertainty. You return to the present just in time to hear Arather speak again. Well, are you going to tell me how we know each other or not? Are you threatening me? Threatening, he snorts. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. A brawl in Government Square. Shakes his head. No, just curious. If we were enemies before, well, I'd like to know. But I'm not about to take it personally. Business is business. So tell me, how do we know each other? Can you read my thoughts? He barks a loud laugh. The only way you'd know that is if you could read mine. Too. Useful skill, isn't it? Now you know why you shouldn't try to lie to me. So where do I know you from? was also in the endless battle. Say no more, he says, raising a hand. Should have known, with that tattoo and all. My curiosity does get the better of me. What's your company doing in Sagus? Negotiations, he says shortly. I'm between meetings with a few council representatives. They may want us for some ongoing work. He shows his teeth. Bit of a bidding war going on right now, to be honest. We're in demand. As long as all sides are interested, the strongest will prevail, as it should be. Alright, catch you later, bro. Mr. Ambassador, not now, okay. You seem like a woman who knows. This woman's expression defies easy definition. It is cool and professional, but focused, interested. She nods at you and clasps her hands. One of her eyebrows arches suddenly. You're trying to scan my thoughts. You won't find anything in my mind, of course. If I could be undone by so simple a trick, I'd be out of business. She flicks the air near her shoulder, though nothing is there. It's a useful skill, nonetheless. People's best secrets are rarely found on the surface, but their thoughts can guide you if you listen. I expect you and I will have much to talk about. Have you come to trade? Trade what? I am a knowledge broker, she says. A hunter of information. Come to me with questions, and if I have answers, I will trade them. She straightens further and blinks once, managing to make this simple action look as though it was planned in advance. My pricing is simple, a secret for a secret. The only condition is that it must be one I do not already know, and I should warn you that I know a great deal. How do I know you won't claim to, a secret before you've heard it, things? A fair question. If she is offended, she doesn't show it. But I don't bother with assurances. You can either judge my honesty for yourself, or take your business elsewhere. What's the catch? Well spotted, she says. There is one, of course, but it is hardly unexpected. Anything you choose to tell me will, of course, be traded to others in due time. A rare, slight smile graces her lips. In short, if you wish to keep something a secret, don't tell it to me. Why don't you trade your secrets directly to people involved? A number of reasons, she says, but chiefly this. I am a broker, not a blackmailer. You can read my thoughts? No, she gives you a reassuring smile. If I could, I'd have no need to trade now, would I? Don't worry, I'm a broker, not a thief. Do I have secrets to exchange? I'm interested in exchanging secrets. Good, she says simply. What information do you need? Okay, let's try a top option. Genuine pleasure warms her face. Agreed, she says. What do you offer? Would you accept secrets about Sagus Cliffs? Of course, she says. If I don't already know them, of course. Yeah, I don't want to give that secret away. What about secrets about me? It might, she allows. What can you tell me? I was the falling star that appeared in the sky over the city. I am a cast-off. Actually, this.
I'm ready to learn something new.
Her gaze flickers from your face to your hair and then your hands. Interesting, she says, touching the air above her wrist. But far more interesting for you, I'd imagine, especially at the time. The side of her mouth quirks. Now for your interesting secret. She traces the corner of her lips thoughtfully. The merchants Felinda and Staristi are in love, and have been for many, many years. Felinda has never heard Staristi's voice. Interesting. Alright, well, catch you later.
Sure enough. I'm ready.
This looks like a fun place. Snurf! Slouched before you is a figure clad in a dusty, unremarkable robe. Loose folds of rough cloth shift to reveal a vaguely humanoid form with elongated facial features and 2 elaborate biomechanical arms. You can't help but notice the size, the shape, and even the number of its digits, changing as it tinkers with a bizarre-looking device on the table. It glances up at you. Its eyes are the size of your palms. You realize it is a visitant, a being from another world. Greetings, fellow sentient, it says, nodding with studied respect. I'll be with you in a moment. Its mechanical fingers contract and dance independently over the surface of the device before it, and adjusting and tightening. There. I am Snurf, guest of the Order of Truth. What brings you to my workplace? Tell me about yourself. Your curiosity honors me, it says, inclining its head. I came through the bloom from another world. To be absolutely honest, I was exiled for inadvertent sacrilege and perversion. I would imagine that you are curious about my people's reproductive processes at this point, it adds placidly. I would happily describe them. I wasn't, but that sounds like an interesting topic. It is, Snurf says brightly, though it is far from the most esoteric method I've uncovered in my studies. It is a rather complicated topic, however, so let me know when you're ready to speak at length. Where are you from? Another world, it says. I do miss it sometimes, but I cannot return, as I said. What's that device you're working on? A minor project of mine, it says, with a self-depreciating wave. Something to widen the boundaries of my research. It scans for unknown reproductive processes and displays them for further study. The device clicks to itself. Ah, Snurf says, watch. Transparent image of 2 goat-headed humanoids appears over the device. At first, it seems they are wrestling each other. After a moment, you realize your mistake. Copulating, Marger, fascinating. The visitant begins taking careful, angular notes in an unfamiliar language on the scroll beside the device. There's quite a lot of motion involved, isn't there? What sort of notes could you possibly be taking? Simply my first observations of the methods on display, the visitant says, positioning the setting, of course. One of the creatures utters a bleeding shriek, and results, the visitant adds, making another note. Those arms of yours are interesting. How do they function? I am not quite sure, it says, raising them for your inspection. Extra digits whirl out of the mechanical palms in a somewhat nauseating wave and disappear just as quickly. They seem to be as sentient as either of us, but obedient so long as I keep them busy. Otherwise, they scramble about while I rest, touching things, picking locks, strangling the old odd rodent. Visitant sighs. I've forced them to take up knitting. Yes, I'm ready to hear. Deprived of the layers of sociological complexity, the process is quite simple, the visitant says. At a certain age, my people ceremonially choose a limb for removal. The limb has grown into a new being, children in your terminology. Size. This is where matters get more complicated. The selected part relegates the child to a caste. Arm children become laborers, leg children become warriors, and head children, through the sacrifice implied in their creation, become leaders. Snurf studies its metal hands. As I've suggested, the limbs we surrender do not grow back. In fact, those who replace their limbs insult their children and sin against their people. So this is where your biomechanical arms come in, I'd imagine. You are correct, it says, unfortunately. I surrendered my arms to create my children, it says. They grew to maturity and joined me in my study of various void-born Numenera. For a time, we were happy. It lowers its eyes. Then I discovered a melted humanoid figurine. I did no more than glance at its folded arms before it opened its eyes. That is the last thing I remember. I awoke with the arms you see now, Snurf sighs. My children, thinking I had disowned them, disowned me, and my people were even less merciful. It was an accident. I am not sure it was, the visitant says carefully. My work was difficult at best when I lacked arms. Perhaps the artifact heard my frustration and sought to ease it. Snurf shakes its head. A moment's weakness can cost us so much. At least I have found other ways to take my mind off the loss of my family and my people.
I'm ready to learn something new.
It was only when I began visiting other worlds that I learned that most species do not reproduce by severing their limbs, Snurf says, shaking his head. The discovery fascinated me, and so I began cataloging the various methods of procreation found throughout the void. It was only when I found my way to Sega's Cliffs, by way of the Bloom, that I was offered a place to work here in the Order of Truth. And there you have it, the visitant says, folding its mechanical arms. Alright, well, catch you later, bro. Oh, Quoro's here. That's fun. This priest is tall, thin, and dressed only in black. Narrow slashes of oil decorate his unlined skin like letters in an unknown language. His eyes are harried, but alive with intelligent humor. They land on you with a tiny flicker of recognition. He's back. I wonder what brings him here now. Then his gaze moves from you to your companion. Hello, Callie. Here to work or just visit? And with the husk, I hope this isn't a long-term visit. Just a bit of business. Have you ever heard anything about a resonance chamber, Min? We're looking for a way to repair one. Your what? Min gasps. I thought that thing was a myth, and you're trying to repair it? Where is it? Is that what he and Salamari were working on? I'd love to see that. I'd rather not say just yet. Ah, he says, his mouth twisting. Probably wise. Anyway, do you have any piece of the machine with you? I have a shard of it. Take a look. He handles the shard with care, organic and crystalline. It was grown into the appropriate shape for the machine. This is definitely what Salamari was working on all those years ago with her partner. He looks at you, his eyebrow raised but does not say more. Reluctantly, he hands it back to you. It must be him then, but why lie? I'll ask Salamari about it later. In all honesty, I focus more on traditionally powered machines. Salamari has some experience with organic machine construction. You might ask her about it. Okay, tell me about the machine behind you. It makes levies, the guardians of Seius. He rubs his chin. Our records say that Daiviatku found a similar device in the ruins of Archoplasia, far to the north. He convinced the city that a local version, a modified one, would be of use. In order to become a citizen, everyone in Sega's Cliffs, even the ones born here, gives a year of their lives to the machine. It uses that, borrowed time to create a levy. What if someone only has 1 year to live? Would they die the second they entered the machine? No, he frowns. They never die in the machine, but it catches up with them a few days later. That doesn't happen very often. Sometimes I think the machine actually saves them, prevents them from meeting whatever fate was in store, but not always. At any rate, the levies created by the machine are nearly identical. They only last a year. After that, they quietly return to the machine and dissolve into... His hands grip the air, trying to frame the words. Gray gunk. It's incredibly unpleasant to watch, but they don't seem to mind. It's kind of gross. Yeah, like I said, it's not fun to watch, but they don't scream or thrash around, and then their gunk gets used when the next soon-to-be citizen strolls through the machine. He slaps his hands together. Nothing gets wasted, except for the bits that wash down the drain. Can't do anything about that. Anyway, that's the machine. Any other questions? Let's talk about something else. Can you tell me about your work? He says, that's a big question. Even on the best days, I specialize in mechanical Numenera, intelligent or not. But I haven't had much time for research since I started managing our branch of the Order. Can I ask some questions about mechanical Numenera? I would be incredibly grateful if you did. Every other conversation I have revolves around how I'm ruining the Order, or not doing enough to save the Order. He rubs his forehead with the back of his calloused hand. Please, ask me about wires and blinking lights. Well, I have apparently nothing to ask you about that. So what is the Order of Truth? Good question. He chews his lip for a moment, framing his words. We live on the surface of a vast labyrinth of layered ruins, packed with relics and artifacts, windows into the past. Some people are content to find them, use them, sell them. He grins. But not the Order of Truth, not the Aeon Priests. We want to understand the Numenera, study them, point at them, and argue about them. Now, in the West, the Order of Truth is much bigger than this little enclave. It's a vast organization, led by the Amber Pope. Out there, our words turn the heads of kings. He shrugs. Around here, we occasionally get discounts on equipment from local vendors and a free cup of tea. Not that I'm complaining. How did a chapter of the Order of Truth end up out here? It was founded 300 years ago by a Vargellan nano named Divaria. That's his statue outside. He governed, or you could say ruled, the Order with more force than you see in traditional chapters. He set us up in the spire, handpicked new members, and chose them for particular projects of his design. We're not quite that organized these days, he says, shrugging. For better or worse, leaders are chosen by consent of the other priests and priestesses. And they don't have a say in what everyone works on. They just deal with the politics and the paperwork so that everyone else can focus on their ruinous side projects and hideously dangerous experiments. Flashes a grin, which is to say, I'm the leader because I'm the only one who admits we need to eat. You sound awfully dismissive of your colleagues' work. Envious is the word, he says. I have a few insane theories I've been waiting to test out for years, he sighs, but the outside world just refuses to go away. The slave families, for some reason, aren't interested in funding wild, endless experimentation. They like results, especially weaponizable ones, so I review their request, deflect the crazier ones, and convince my colleagues to work for a living occasionally. He nods at the nearby machine. We also create the levies that guard the city, though that's seen more as a responsibility than a favor these days. It's a shame the Order has to earn its keep in this city. Well, it has its ups and downs, he says, shrugging. Some of our people could use some grounding. He scratches his head absently. What else do you want to know about the Order?
I'm ready to learn something.
Hey, let me break your mind. Min squints at you, then the ceiling. It's possible, he says at last. DV's behavior matches the stories I've heard about the changing god. But he hasn't exactly shown up here to pick up where he left off. He shrugs. If you're right, maybe he just lost interest. Are there a lot of Aeon priests in Sagas Cliffs? Yes, but they're not strictly here, he says. Some are out on digs or various expeditions. We only have a few Aeon priests in the city right now. There's Salamari, who I mentioned before. Beliezer studies biomechanical life forms. Orthfong is an expert in inexplicable and malicious architecture and should be back soon. He pauses, ticking his fingers and furrowing his brow. And Snurf, of course, a visitant who's developed an interest in all forms of reproduction. It isn't one of us, and I don't think it wants to be, but we gave it a space to work on its projects. He leans in. Don't go over there unless you've invented a way to scrub your memory clean. Also, Lan Erring, of course. He's been educated in the Order, but he's still looking for a discovery that will make him an Aeon priest. Let's talk about something else. Okay, well, catch you later, bro. Hey, Sally. Sally the Pally. You recognize one of the parties in this one-sided argument. Koro, the Star Seeker you met in the reef. He studies his boots, silent and miserable. The other is a tall woman in finely cut robes, regarding the man with arch disdain. When I told you to retrieve the falling star, I wonder if you heard, "Return to me with empty hands and excuses," she sighs. I no longer need your services, Koro. Collect your things and go. What? No. Salameri, I searched the reef for hours. Whatever fell was long gone by the time we got there. And that is why you are unsuited for this work. She massages her eyes. Honestly, I don't know what I expected. I saw promise in you, but also the flaws, and I ignored them. She spots you out of the corner of her eye and turns to you, framing a sharp rebuke at your intrusion. Her anger turns to stark amazement when she sees your face. Adan! I haven't seen you in 10 years. 10 years. I cannot begin to imagine what your excuse might be. Our last night together was so incredible. What could possibly have driven him off? Oh boy. Oh golly. I guess we're just, we're gonna be honest. I am not Adan. She blinks once, twice. A smile blooms. You're a cast-off, she murmurs, studying you from head to foot. An appraising and somewhat proprietary eye. Remarkable. This is rather like visiting a house you once owned and seeing new tenants through the windows. I've met members of your little family before, of course, trailing around in that shadow, looking for clues or trying to repair the damage. Her smile is genuine and somewhat sad. Her eyes linger on yours, as if looking for any flash of recognition. I can help you, if you like. But I need something from you first. Are we talking about romantic favors here? She rolls her eyes. Please, that time is dead, gone, buried beneath a decade. At any rate, think it over. She grins wolfishly. Tell me when you're ready to help. I won't give my heart to another, least of all him, and most of all. I have some questions about the changing god. Good, she says. Curiosity about your origin is quite healthy. Her expression hardens. I will be happy to share what I know once you've completed that favor for me. Trying to repair something called a resonance chamber. Ah, that contraption, she says. I'd be delighted to help, as I was before. But I'll need you to do that little favor for me first. Enter the Anichoke Lazaret, sure, that's a thing, and make it safe for me to resume my work there. She lowers her voice. If you seek assistance from the others in the Order, do be careful. I suspect one of them is an informant for the Mimorvira. Mimorvira? That's the bloom chick. No, that's the edge. The cliff's edge. Whatever, it's fine. Too many of our finds have been pillaged by her thugs. Who is the Mimorvira? The simple definition would be a crime lord in the bloom. Oh, it is bloom. I was right the first time. But she is quite a bit more than that in all ways that matters. She rules that tangled cesspit, and her spies are everywhere. You think there's a spy in the Order of Truth? Almost certainly, she says, losing interest. But I let men worry about that. Spies aren't a problem if you never share your secrets. What do you do here? I study the ruins and remnants of past worlds, she says. When I have time, of course. These days, the Order spends more of its time helping the city than on its own research. Still laboring under lesser minds, dear, Callie says, running the edge of her thumb along a nail. I've never understood how you put up with it. She's too smart for the Order. What stirs me is she knows it, yet stays. It's quite simple, Salameri says with brittle humor. They pay. That helps a great deal. Will you be staying with us for long this time? To give her body so completely, what does she know? What is she really after? I think not, Callie says, letting her hand fall. Busy times ahead, I'm afraid. Let's talk about that favor you want. Of course. She draws your attention to a map of the reef of fallen worlds on her workstation and taps a gilded ornate structure not far from the dome containing the resonance chamber. This is the Enochoic Lazaret. It has been hopelessly sealed since the dawn of the Ninth World until, she smiles, I managed it in a week or two. It was quite simple once you figured out the trick. I've been slipping in and out at nights, investigating the technology within, taking notes. She frowns. Then, more recently, I discovered that the structure was sealed again. Throat's getting dry. Do you think one of your colleagues is responsible? I doubt it, she says. First of all, I haven't told them. The Order has been trying to open the lazaret for centuries, and I want it to myself for now. She rolls her eyes. Secondly, my colleagues are nosy and somewhat competitive in a charmingly amateuristic fashion, but none of them have the stones for out-and-out treachery. I believe someone tramped inside with no regard for the dangers and managed to trigger a failsafe that resealed the structure. She flicks a strand of hair from her eyes. I need someone to reopen the lazaret and, she waves a vague hand, handle whatever nonsense the trespassers have stirred up in their wake. Why not send Goro? I suppose I could do that, she says. Coral stirs hopefully. If I wanted him dead by sundown and the entire structure looted by strangers or aflame. She arches a cold eyebrow. Alternately, I could hire someone competent. Coral sags. Besides, I can reopen the structure. The concern is what's waiting for me inside. She holds her gaze for a moment to make sure you understand. I want you to deal with whatever's gone wrong in there so I can resume my work. Needless to say, I would also prefer the structure in an undamaged state, as I left it. She smooths her robes. Well, there it is. Will you help? I will if I have time. Of course, she says smoothly, but disappointment flashes across her face. She hands you a metallic stalk with flour, like ridges along its length and a mechanical eye at one end. This, as you likely know, is the Eye of Mlox, and how I originally accessed the structure. The fact that the lazaret recognizes this organ as an authorized user implies that its builders were machine intelligences, maybe a machine civilization, from before the dawn of the Ninth World. She smiles, brushing off her hands. Well, on your way, do watch your step in the reef. It can be quite dangerous. Please, Salamari, Kor says, edging in beside you. Give me another chance. I can handle this. I have to win her back. Her respect, I mean. Right, her respect. I don't work with amateurs. Coral's fist clenches, but he otherwise continues pretending you don't exist. She says, looking between the two of you. Salamari considers you both, then sorts through her work table, picking up a metallic eye. You're welcome to try, Coral, she says. She hands the eye over, but holds on to it when he tries to take it. This is your last chance, she says. If you come back empty-handed, you had better be dead as well. Trembling, Coral pockets the eye and leaves eyes downcast. I'll prove myself to her. Then she'll see me as more than just a mercenary. Alright, see you, bro. Good luck. Salamari, she watches him go and sighs. He's going to fail, of course. It's what he does best. Okay. Well, we're probably good. Wait, whoa, leap. A book! Abhumans of the Sagas Protectorate. A study of savagery. Definitely take that. A small wireframe pyramid sits on a base of polished wood. Lying inside the pyramid is a dull sphere of silverish metal. Examine the sphere. Suspended in its wire cage, the sphere is almost perfectly sized to fit in your palm. The gaps in the wiry mesh are large enough for you to reach through, though not large enough to pull the sphere out. Examine the frame. Frame appears to be fixed firmly in place. It's constructed of an organic material, not metal, grown in a manner similar to bone or coral. Thinner, vein-like strands of the material wind across each of the triangular sides. Something strikes you as odd about it, but you can't quite determine why. Try to discover what seems odd. Does anybody have any pools left? How do I refill these pools? While examining the frame, you try nudging it gently, and it shifts in a most peculiar manner. You focus on moving the frame in various directions, and discover that it can be easily lifted straight up off the base, lowered back down onto it, but it refuses to move laterally, even while being held in midair. Examine the base. The base appears to be made from a slab of lurid red stone. On closer inspection, you recognize it as a petrified wood of some kind. An inscription has been written on the base in front of the pyramid. Examine the inscription. The inscription is in an alien language. It has been burned into the wood and then filled with a luminous substance. Although you haven't seen the language in your own short life as a cast-off, it still seems familiar. Well, try to recall the language. We did it. You've depleted one of your stat pools. Might, speed, and what? To recover your stat pools, you can find a place to sleep or use consumable items and cybers. Okay. A distant distant memory surfaces. You're standing before a large metal cylinder that looms a meter or two above your head. The cylinder is a time capsule of sorts. You're convinced that what lies within is critical to your latest experiments. The problem, alas, is that the capsule is locked, and the only clue to opening it is a series of strange glyphs etched into its sides. Glancing around, you see dusty tomes, faded banners, metal scraps, and dozens of other objects, all featuring the same strange glyphs. You spent a lifetime collecting every trace of this language that could be found, and decades of study have finally led to this moment. You look upon the glyphs, and you know their meaning. Stepping forward, you reach toward the cylinder as prescribed by the etchings, and it flares to life.
Ready to learn something new.
Shaking off the memory, you look down at the inscription and realize that its meaning is now clear. The crimson dawn greets the seeker. The violet dusk sees the search's end. I guess touch the sphere. As you extend your hand toward the sphere, the thinner strands along the front side of the cage retract toward the thicker frame edges, creating an opening large enough for the sphere to fit through. Take the sphere. You pull the sphere out of the frame through the opening facing you, and it immediately begins to glow a scintillating blue. You pause a moment to make sure that there are no other effects, then try to put it with the rest of your belongings. At some point during this motion, the sphere simply vanishes, only to reappear within the frame, once again a dull gray. Apparently, taking the sphere will not be quite so easy. Read the inscription again. Your eyes flash over the foreign shapes, their meaning still clear. The crimson dawn greets the seeker. The violet dusk sees the searcher's end. Take the sphere again. You pull the sphere out again, and once again it glows a brilliant blue before disappearing and returning to the frame. After a little experimentation, you discover that the sphere's position seems to reset whenever it moves beyond a particular distance from the device. As long as you keep it within that distance, as you are now, you can hold on to it. Put the sphere back in the frame. As you place the sphere back in the frame, it changes to a vibrant orange color. It occurs to you that the sphere seems to respond to moving through the frame boundaries. Perhaps moving it through the other sides will produce additional results. Move the sphere from the front opening. Sphere deepens to a deep violet hue. Lift the frame and return the sphere to it via the bottom opening. The sphere changes color to indigo. Remove the sphere via the bottom. Shining yellow. Via the left opening. Deep violet. Alright, opening. Dull orange. Oh boy, I don't... I'm too dumb right now for that. What is this? Leathery flesh. Oh, it's like one of those little floaty things.
All right.
This desk is cluttered with scrawled notes, piles of paper, worn books. The owner was either extremely disorganized or left in a hurry. Examine the papers and books. You rustle through the mess of documents and notes. Most of them discuss the buildings and architecture of prior worlds. They're filled with drawings and descriptions of bizarre structures uncovered by scholars and explorers. The owner of this desk seems to have been particularly interested in doors, door frames, and archways. He's drawn circles around all such things, but his scrawled comments are never more revealing than similar, but not a match, or could there be a connection here? And do a little more examination. Again, you scan the jumbled books and documents, but you don't find anything new. Most of them describe the architecture of prior worlds. Anything resembling a door frame has been circled in brightly colored ink. You also notice a few letters and personal correspondence, but they appear to have been written in code, or perhaps in a foreign script that isn't familiar to you. Alright. Cool. I'm gonna stop here for today. Throw up a little save. Yeah, save game, and yep, we're gonna call that good for today. I will try to be back tomorrow to do some more. Thanks for hanging out, and see you next time. This has been a WeakT Gaming video. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, punch the little notification bell, maybe give us a like or a comment. And you know what? You have a nice day.